Now in this video I'm going to show you how to grow perfect petunias every single time. And petunias are one of the most popular flowers for your garden in terms of their range of colours and range of varieties, and they're absolutely fantastic in flower beds, in hanging baskets or in pots. So they're a very versatile flower. I'm going to show you how to grow petunias right from sowing through to transplanting and eventual flowering to give you success every single time, and hopefully give you one or two tips along the way. Now garden centres offer a wide range of petunias generally, and you can buy them already partly grown in single pots or in cell trays of 6 or 12 or however many you want. But that can get expensive. But one of the big advantages of growing from seed is that you can grow as many as you want, and a single packet of seeds will typically have 1,000 to 1,500 seeds in it. Now clearly not every single one of those will germinate, but growing from seed will clearly give you better value for money, because in a packet of seeds you can grow a lot more plants for your money. Now before we start sowing the seeds, it's worth knowing a few things about petunias. Firstly, they're an annual, which means that they will only grow for 1 year. You'll plant them, you'll sow them, they'll grow and they'll flower, and then they'll die. Also, petunias are heat-loving plants, so they do like a little bit of warmth, so there's no point in trying to plant them too early. Typically, you should be thinking about sowing your seeds round about 8 to 10 weeks before your predicted last frost date. And that will give them enough time to grow, and when they're ready to go out, the risk of frost should have been eliminated. And when we sow petunia seeds, typically you're looking for temperatures of round about 24 degrees centigrade or 75 degrees Fahrenheit. That is soil temperature. So if you're starting them early and you live in a colder climate, you might need to think about starting them, for example, in a propagator or indoors where you've got a bit of heat. And if you don't create an environment with those types of temperatures, then your chance of seed germination and healthy plant growth is going to be reduced. So today I'm going to sow a variety called Multiflora F2 petunias, and as you can see it gives a range of mixed colours, so perfect for my bedding flowers and my hanging baskets and pots. So as far as the type of compost that you'll use, you could use a multi-purpose compost if it's sieved, but because these seeds are so small, I tend to use a finer type of seed compost. This one is something called Levington's Advanced Mixed, and it just gives a really fine surface for the seeds to germinate in. So what I'm doing, I'm just filling up a quarter seed tray, as you can see, and just gently compacting it down with my hand, just so that the compost is not right at the surface, and just fill any areas that are slightly. So now that's full of compost, the thing we need to do now is water the compost first. So get my watering bottle and give the compost a really good soak and let it soak in. Now what you're going to see in a minute is that these seeds are very small, and what you don't want to do is water afterwards, because you could end up washing the seeds out of the tray or just completely flooding them into one place. So just put a few seeds into your hand. In fact, I'm going to put all of them. I don't know if you can see that on the camera, they're very tiny, almost like dust, very, very tiny, hardly that you can see them. What I do is pinch a few with my forefinger and thumb, and then just gently rotate my forefinger and thumb just to try and get as much of a spread as possible of the seeds. Now when the seeds are going into the compost, you can't actually see where they're falling. It's a bit of guesswork. Now because the seeds are so small, there's no need to cover them over at all. Just leave them on the surface of the compost and then they will germinate in the normal way. I've already prepared a label, petunia. We'll put that there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take these home and put these inside my propagator, because the time of year I'm filming this, the temperature's not where it needs to be for these to germinate. So I'm going to give them about a week in the propagator, and typically they'll start germinating in the propagator anytime from 7 to 14 days. And once they've germinated, I'll bring them back into this unheated polyhouse to allow them to grow on. Now here you can see with the petunias there's an awful lot of flowers in here. So we just need to gently put the screwdriver right in the corner and just lift, and we should be able to get a clump out by putting our finger underneath and just pulling the clump out. Wow, there's a lot there. And what I'll do with these is just gently loosen the soil with my fingers, actually at the roots. I won't be touching the stems or the leaves. If you're gentle with these plants, they'll be absolutely fine. Now, as you can see with the petunias, I've literally just taken probably about an eighth of the amount out of the tray here, and that's how many I've already got to transplant. So it's exactly the same process as you would for other flowers. Put your finger in a hole and then I just fill it around with compost, holding only the leaves and then pushing around it. So I'm actually pushing down around the sides of it, not touching the plant at all. And there we have one petunia. Let's do another one. So we get a one, holding it by the leaves, put our finger in, put our plant in, and then pushing compost around the sides but without touching the plant itself. So there's our first tray of petunias, all pricked out and planted up. So again, just give them a bit of water just to bed them in, and we'll put that to one side. I reckon I'm going to get about 6 trays like this of petunia. It just shows you how many seeds you get in a packet. So that's the first tray of petunias now finished, and they'll stay in the polyhouse until they get a bit larger, and we'll see how many other trays we get. Now, as you can see, the petunias in this cell tray have grown considerably since we pricked them out, as you've just seen. This is typically 4 to 5 weeks after the pricking out stage, and you can see that they've been growing very well. They're nice and healthy, but you can see that you have to think about transferring them because the cell is only a certain size. It's only got a certain amount of soil, and the larger the plants get, the larger the roots get, the more demand there is for moisture and nutrients, to a point where if you leave them too long without transplanting them into deeper soil, they're going to die because there's just not going to be enough moisture and nutrients in there. And that's the time now when we're going to put them into individual pots just like this. So the first thing we need to do is get the plants from the cell trays ready to go into the pots, and all we'll do is just squeeze the bottom of the cell and just gently push your fingers up and lift it, and then put your fingers at the side and then just remove the plant, being careful not to touch the roots, the leaves or the stems because they're very delicate. And then what I'll do is I'll put it just to one side and I'll put the tray over here. And then what I'll do is I'll get a pot of round about this size, which is about 70 millimeters or 7 centimeters square, round about 10 centimeters or 100 millimeters deep. And I'll put a little bit of multi-purpose compost just in the bottom. I'm not trying to fill the pot up. Then what I'll do is I'll get the plant that I've just taken from the cell tray and I'll pop it into the middle, keeping my finger just on the side just to keep the plant elevated. And then I'll start to gently fill around the plant without actually touching it and compressing it down. All the time I'm doing that, I'm not actually touching the stem or the roots or the leaves. I'm just compressing around it, because as you compress around it, it will put the plant in place. And there we have the plant ready and potted. Then all it needs is a bit of a water. So I'll just give it a bit of a water. Let that soak in and then pop it to one side. So what I'm going to do now is follow exactly the same process with the rest of this tray and the other 3 trays of petunias I've got, and that's going to give me a really good amount of petunias. So when I've transplanted all 4 of the seed trays that we've just looked at, I've calculated that I'm going to have in excess of 90 petunia plants. Now a lot of those are going to go in my garden, family's garden, but it just shows you how many plants you can get from just one packet of seeds, and they are fairly easy to grow if you follow the instructions that I've just followed, and there's so many varieties available. I'm also going to use these in hanging baskets and in pots to put them around different parts of my garden. They are absolutely an amazing flower, and you can see how easy they are to grow. I do hope you've enjoyed this video and you've picked up 1 or 2 tips for how you can grow petunias, and I would really love to know what variety of petunias is your favourite. If you could pop a comment below with the variety and the general colour of them, that'll be fantastic, because there's so many varieties available. You might even suggest one that I might even try for myself. So thank you for watching the video. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you've picked up 1 or 2 tips, and if you did enjoy the video, don't forget to give it the thumbs up. And if you want to subscribe to the channel for future videos on how to sow and grow fruit and veg and 1 or 2 recipe ideas, don't forget to press the subscribe button. And I'll see you all on the next video.